first things first. I'm a realist. No, first things
First
first
things
is
first on the
I'm
realist.
a realist.
Every time
Um,
I hear that, well, first things first, why do I immediately go to that? I'm the realist, and then I hate that Iggy Azalea has just gotten stuck in my head, and that's what I say. I hate it, but yet
why?
I'm glad you referenced it too, so I'm not the only idiot out there that's still referencing that. There's 2 of us.
From a thing down, flip it and reverse it.
That's the key that I do for these recordings. I'll sit
Mm,
here, I'll say something to get them to go, "Whoa," I do like an "oh shock" moment, and I quickly hit record. That way, as soon as
okay.
they come in, it's like, "Whoa." It's like they don't know what to do with themselves. It keeps that high energy up going. That's hosting 101.
That's what the viewers need to know is that every time before we press record, something shocking has been said, and we're
Something
like,
shocking.
boom.
Boom, baby. It's either super offensive, super like, "Whoa, I didn't know that's humanly possible," or something like that too.
It's usually that.
It's usually that. It could be something that's like some crime that I committed. It's like, "Are you serious? You're one of those?" It's like, "Hey, welcome back to Not a Strong Start," and I go right into it.
It usually starts off with Daniel being like, "Okay, I have to tell you something. I've never told anyone this before, but one
Yes.
time I did this, and it was like something so horrifying that we're all like,
Yes.
"Ugh," and then he's like, boom,
Boom.
what?
Welcome
No,
back.
welcome back.
Welcome back. And we're back. And it's like,
And
so
we're
the whole
back.
time you're sitting there thinking, wait, did he just say that to rile me up or is he actually telling me the truth? We don't know. It's not a confession if you don't know if it is or isn't.
We still don't know about a lot of these things. Do we turn him in? We don't know.
Yeah, we still don't know if there's that dead body that's still buried there that I did in Vegas. But hey, we're not talking about that. Not in this episode because today it's late to the game.
Okay, so yeah, welcome back to Repetitive It All. This episode is late to the game with my co-host Dan Noodles. Circle 'em up.
You heard a pho? Well, here's duh.
We're like,
Dan,
what the
Dan noodle.
fuck?
What the duh?
Perfect. I'm glad I kept
Waba.
the Dan Noodles reference.
Love it. That's what I'm saying. The Dan noodles. Let's go.
Okay, anyways, Dan Noodles, what he does is he forces me to watch popular or maybe sometimes not so popular movies that I've never seen.
Embarrassingly has never seen. Here's late to the game. You guys know the rules. If I present a movie that she's already seen, then pow, she gives me the Uno card. And then she presents one to me. If I've also seen it, then I Uno her Uno back. That's a dose card. You ready for the movie? You've never even heard of it.
Okay.
Most likely our audience has never heard of it either. Can I get some
Yeah.
kind of drum roll or something? Give me a sound effect. I want a
Okay.
sound effect.
Can you
Can't
hear
hear
it?
it. All I see is just a tongue moving around.
And
No.
these
All right.
stupid microphones.
Sound effect, sound effect, sound effect, sound effect. Here's the name of the movie. Ready for it?
Mm.
It's called A Woman is a Woman. I told you never heard of it. Never even heard of it. The movie's called A Woman is a Woman, and that's not even the I'm not gonna give you any hints. It's a movie that I saw it a while ago, a long while ago, and I just loved it. Pop, pop, pop quiz, hot shot. You ready for the questions?
Yes.
Okay. Woman is a Woman. What is the movie about?
I'm just gonna throw this out there. I'm not sure if this is real or not,
Okay.
but when I was upstairs putting on this shirt, I thought, I wonder if he's gonna give me a French movie. And I don't know if this is a French movie, but for some reason, when you said it, I'm like, is this a French movie? Okay, what's it about? It's a French movie.
That has nothing to do with the question that I posed. And even if it is or it isn't, even if it's in another language, right? It doesn't reference it doesn't have anything to do with the question that I asked or the questions that I'm gonna ask. But okay.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna say a woman is a woman. I'm gonna say it's a French movie, and I feel
Okay.
like it's well, I
That's
don't
not
know
what the
why.
movie's about.
I know what
Still
it's
has
not
noth
about.
okay.
And I feel like it's going to be a coming of age movie.
Mm,
Maybe it follows women from the same family in different generations, and how I'm imagining it's going to be a drama movie. Or just going to be like a freaking a comedic British movie. Not French or drama at all. It's going to be like, or it's going to be like Japanese horror, Korean horror.
or it could be an Adam Sandler movie.
Could be. No, I don't think it is. Since no one's heard of it, I think
Sure
it's gonna
about that?
yes,
Okay.
yes. It's not Jack and Jill. It's A Woman Is a
Oh.
Woman. Hey, yeah, coming of age drama French foreign movie
Coming of age movie. Okay, about family. So it kinda sounds
about
like,
women.
so who's our main character then? This is not one of the questions. So if it's about a coming of age movie about this, is it like a mother, a daughter, like a grandmother, her daughter, and her daughter?
Mhm.
Like, is it 3
I think
generations? Like, what's
yes.
happening here?
I
Okay.
think the main character is gonna be, like, a mom who's, like, more of a middle-aged mom, but you see some of her childhood play out with her
Mm,
mom, but the most of the story is gonna be, like, the middle age, and then she has her own daughter, and now her
mm.
mom is elderly, and it's gonna be how yes, that. And them together and like, "Oh, I learned this when I was young to pass this on," and she's like, "Oh," the grandma's like, "Oh, yes, but you should have did this one," and yeah, it's gonna be all learning and stuff.
So what are they what's the obstacles here? Because if it's them teaching each other stuff, okay, but, like,
Yeah.
what's the main story of this one? Is she
It
struggling
doesn't
with something? Is
oh,
it
yeah. It's women being women, we're always struggling, okay? The struggles are real all the time. Like, we're just struggling doing everyday things and our hormones, okay? It's just gonna be that. Motherhood and being a teen and, like, then being older and then having a granddaughter and having still a daughter, and it's just, like, just the struggles of being a chick, man.
so
Alright?
so you're telling me that there's no main storyline to this movie. We're just catching in the life of these women at a period of their lives as there's
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be suffering throughout, come on now. There's gonna be
okay,
probably, like, divorce or death, and there's gonna be death, and, like, maybe the child's gonna have sort of health issue. There's gonna be struggles.
got it, okay. Which decade did this movie come out in?
Hmm.
When I asked you that question, what went on in your head? Did you immediately think, "Oh, so it's a decade?" So do you automatically think it means it implies that it's older, or am I throwing you a trick Like, what's going on in your head right now?
Um, at first, I was thinking, what decade does this movie take place in, as opposed to when it came out?
So you think that the movies takes place in a different decade than the decade it comes out and it came out in. You're
Yes.
convinced of that.
No, I'm not convinced of
Okay.
anything at all. This is
Well,
part of my
that's what I'm
womanly
asking.
struggle. I'm not I'm not convinced. I'm just thinking that maybe it takes place in an older well, especially if it's going through the time period. It's going through different time periods
Mm,
of different women. There's
that
gonna be
makes
different.
sense.
But I think it came out in uh 90s, 80s, 40s,
80s. Okay.
80s.
What? 80s or 40? That's a huge time gap. Okay, so you said it's gonna take place. So we're gonna see a storyline in the 40s, and then we're gonna see one in the 80s.
Yeah,
Phew, that grandma was really old when she had her kids, huh?
the
That's a huge
60s,
time jump. 50s now. So we got the 40s, 50s, and 80s.
40s, like 60s and 80s. There's a 40-year time period,
40s,
right?
60s, and 80s, 20s. Okay.
20 you said 20s.
I didn't say 20s.
You just now you did.
No, I didn't. I thought.
You
Oh,
see what it's
okay.
like? You see when we play this back, we will see the womanly struggles that we go through where men say, "I never said that." And it's like, "Yeah, you did." They're like, "You're crazy." And you're like, "You're
I
making
do
shit
not
up."
sound
It's
like
like, "No,
that.
I'm
I
not."
sound like this.
That's my voice for all men, okay?
Yes, I'm not all men, Marie, as you know that. I'm the co-host on Late to the Game. Give me some respect.
What you say, bitch?
What is the profession of the female lead?
Um, I'm guessing she is going to be a nurse.
A nurse. Okay.
A nurse. Specifically caring for geriatrics.
Specifically caring for geriatrics. Interesting. And is she taking
Yeah.
care of female geriatrics?
Both. She works just like like specifically taking care of the
Mm,
elderly.
got it. So in your story, it sounds like men are not a central part to this story. It sounds like it's mostly female. Is that correct?
Yes,
Correct
but
assessment?
there's men in it. But
Okay.
it's like
Okay.
the story focuses around the women.
Got it. This film is directed by this international icon. Who is it?
Do you laugh when you write these out? Do you
Yeah, I
laugh?
do. I love it. I love it.
International.
'Cause I can
God.
already see you squirming and just like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Some French guy. Okay,
Why are you so convinced that it's a French movie?
I don't know because you like French movies and because
I
I
love
thought
all
one
type of
time
movies.
I know, but you do like French film. You've mentioned that many times, how you named your dog after the director of Amelie, right? And you have
You
said it a
don't
bunch of
know me,
times.
okay? You don't know
Eh,
me,
okay,
Mary. You don't know me.
alright. And also because I put on the sweater and I think it was an omen. I don't know this person's director's name. I don't know director's name.
So
It's
just
some
make up a
French.
name.
Okay, his name is, so it's always Jean-Luc, right? Jean-Luc Vermette.
Okay. Vermet. Okay. A movie is referenced in this film that the director has previously directed. Which film is it?
The previous, movie that they mention in it that he previously directed was Alors, les garçons. That's what it is. So it's like,
Okay, you
look,
clearly seen
look,
it.
boys. It's like,
Yeah.
look, and then he's like, you know what? We're gonna do a boy movie anymore. We're gonna do a woman movie now. And then they're watching Alors les garçons, and then they're like, oh yeah, always making movies about men. And then he's like, oh, movies about women though. Yeah, you're in. Psych.
Good. Yeah.
I'm so
Okay.
stressed out. I'm gonna tear the head off of Heisenberg right now. Like I am like
Heisenberg's dead after
so
this.
he's
Why?
getting a
Just because
work in
you're
today.
because you're struggling to figure out the answers to these questions? Okay.
Yes.
This is a favorite film of which American actor? You're doing good here,
Um.
Marie. Let's keep it going.
Okay. I'm gonna say Morgan Freeman
Ooh, good one. Morgan Freeman loves his women. Makes total sense. And women love Morgan Freeman? Dot 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 question mark?
does Morgan Freeman love women? Dot 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 question mark.
Yes. Shrug. Morgan Freeman's gonna watch this episode and be like, to hell with you guys. He's gonna cancel us. Morgan Freeman has a lot of pull. I hope you know that.
Well, he probably thinks that we're canceling him.
Morgan Freeman is amazing. Let's just put that out there, okay? Universe, Morgan Freeman is amazing. Him and Samuel L.
Morgan
Jackson, boom, right there. Because they both do excellent narration voices. I love Samuel L. Jackson narrations. Every time I hear him, I'm like, yes.
Morgan Freeman hasn't he like been with like his wife for like a billion years?
Yeah.
He's gonna be like, okay, now my wife thinks I'm a womanizer. What do these people know? And we're sued.
Okay. We're gonna get like a knock on the door at like 2:13 a.m. It's like, yeah.
No, it's gonna be Samuel Jackson being like, "What you say, motherfucker?" It's gonna be
I love it. And then we'll be buried next to those bodies that I talked about in Vegas.
done.
Hey, platinum payoff. Okay. The main female character
Mhm.
mentions her horoscope sign. What is it?
Mm. Taurus, because it's the best.
First of all, that's incorrect.
That's what a Leo would say.
Oh, why you gotta out me like that?
That's so
You
Leo of
outed me.
you.
It is. I mean, come on. Angela is faced with the proposition. What does she decide to do by the end of the movie?
We're saying in order to help your mother and end her suffering, you're gonna have to pull the plug. And this is her
Ooh,
dilemma because
jeez.
she loves her mother so much and wants to hang on to her mother while she can't start crying. It's not even real.
I know. Jesus Christ. You made this a tearjerker, which it could be.
I think it might, but because she works with elderly care, she sees the suffering and what they go through, and she sees how it tears families apart, but she knows what's best for the elderly person because she sees older people begging her to end their life because they don't want to suffer anymore, but then she has to do it with her own mom. And now that's a major dilemma. 'Cause she's like, "Oh, how can I do that to you?" And the mom's like, "Let me go." And she's like, "I can't." And then her granddaughter is like, "Mom, please no." And the grandma's like, "It's okay, sweetie," except in French.
Ooh. Whoa. That sounds a little bit like Guardians of the Galaxy in the beginning
Oh,
when Peter Quill's mom has to succumb to cancer.
I blocked that part of it out of my mind.
As Angela fights with her boyfriend, which
Mm.
household item is she using to be bratty?
To be bratty. Can you elaborate what that means?
She's acting bratty while in the fight, and she grabs a household item.
She's acting bratty.
Yo, what? You're so offended because I'm calling a woman bratty in a fight?
No, because I don't act bratty in a fight, so I don't know what I would grab. I'm acting bratty right now.
Yes, you are. And what are you grabbing? Heisenberg?
It's like, I don't want to do to your balls. Not you, but I mean in the fight, in the
Jeez.
movie. In the movie, she grabs a stress ball. And she's like, "See this? This is what I'm gonna do to your balls. I'm so mad at you."
Oh my god. What the hell? Ooh.
She's mad. He had an affair with
Yes.
her nurse
Okay.
friend.
Ooh, damn. This got some spice on this. Okay. Damn it.
Well, it's French. They're passionate people, Daniel.
They are
Hello.
passionate people.
We have a lot of je ne sais quoi. That's what it is.
There you go. There you go. The movie plays with which kind of visual element for our audience?
Black and white. Oh, and some animation.
Ooh. Okay.
So I'm thinking that there's going to be some black and white um flashbacks for the grandma when she was younger, and the animation is going to be for the main woman when she was a kid, because that's how she remembers all her memories, is like a fun, like, cartoonish type life. And then the grandma, because she had more of a hard life, because she was like raising her kid in like the 40s, it's more of like a, we were poor, she was a single mom, and it's going to be more drab, so it's going to be black and white. But then to the main character woman, even though her mom, the grandma, back in the day thought that everything was black and white and like drab, to her, when she was a child, everything was in color and bright and beautiful because her childhood was great. But the mom, with the grandma, who was a mom at the time, the flashback, she didn't see that she was giving her child everything she needed, because to her, she was so depressed. But really, your kid is having fun, even though you think you're not doing the best you can for it.
Ooh. I like that. That's a lot you had in there. Also, it's a little bit like Wizard of Oz, right? Kind of start off with the sepia color and boom, you hit him with the color.
Yep.
Done.
Get them ruby slippers on and tap, tap, let's go.
Tap, 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 hit. Tap, tap. You know what that means, Marie?
It's time to watch the movie.
Pow! Sweating and stretching. Is it the double S?
Sweat, sweating and stretching. Why? Because that movie was passionate.
Passionate brought the fire, didn't it?
It it did. I think I messaged you during and I said, FYI, I am heated right now.
Did you hate
No,
it?
it
Did
just
you hate it? Did you
you have
hate
to
it?
wait. Wait until the end.
No,
Hello. Remember?
no,
You have to wait till
no.
the end. I need to get my notes.
Oh, she has notes.
I always
I
have
know.
notes. I have the answers and I also have the notes from when I was watching it. So I have everything. I have all the things.
We'll see if you go 10 for 10 today.
Do you think
Probably not.
that's ever
All right.
possible? No.
So let's go with the questions. So just to recap, so we know it's about a three generational that takes place in the 40s, 60s, and 80s, and some could refer to that as a 20-year gap.
Yeah, not the
Okay.
20s.
Not the 20s.
To explain the argument, not the argument, we didn't have an argument, but to
No.
explain how I was being like, "Oh, this is how men are. They say that they say they don't say something, but then they actually said it." And I said, "When we see you in the playback that you actually said it, and then we just watched the playback and you did say it, but then you didn't mean what you said, but then I thought that you were saying something else that you didn't mean." And then I was like, "Blah, blah," and you're like, and I'm like, and then we were both wrong, but then we heard different things.
No, because what I did see was that you interrupted me when I was talking and I said, "Oh yeah, so we had 20s," and you said, "See, you said 20s." I didn't say 1920s. I was like, if you let me finish my sentence, I was going to say we have like a 20s, like a 20-ish gap between each storyline that we cut to, but I didn't get to explain that part, did I?
No. And why didn't you get to explain it? Because I am a passionate, instantaneous feeling and saying what I feel French woman. And it kind of goes with what we're talking about today. So
Yeah.
I was just living, I knew I was in character for what the movie was. Let's just put it that way. So I was being a bratty French woman, whatever.
So let's get into it then. What is the movie about, Marie?
Okay, so the movie is about, first of all, it's a French movie. I don't know how I knew that premonition by putting on that French sweater that it was going to be a French movie, but I knew, and it was. And it is about uh, a young French woman who has a boyfriend and she really wants a baby, and he doesn't want a baby yet. and his friend is actually in love with her too, and then she basically is kind of choosing which guy she kind of wants based on who's going to have a baby with her, and sort of pursuing both, but she might think that, oh, maybe this one guy will give me what I actually want, because she's always so mad at her boyfriend, but then she can't shake that feeling for her
Mhm.
boyfriend. Mhm.
Good. Yeah. So basically, she wants to get pregnant by her boyfriend, and he suggests that his best friend does it. And
Mhm.
then in a bratty way, she agrees to it. And that's where the complication starts. Next question. Which decade did this movie come out in? Which means,
Right.
when did it actually come out?
It came out in the 60s, but it also was made in the 60s, so it was.
Correct. What is the profession of the female lead?
I said that she was a nurse looking after geriatrics, but
You
she was
did.
kinda like she was a stripper burlesque dancer, but in a sense, taking care of geriatrics, because there was old men in that audience, so she was
There
taking
were.
care of them in her own way.
Correct. And
Yeah.
they identified her as a striptease artist.
Yeah, that French would do that.
There's a craft to that.
Of course there
French.
is.
The film is directed by this international icon. Who is it?
Okay, I was half right with the Jean-Luc,
Yes, you
okay? I
were.
don't know. But I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but Jean-Luc Godard? Jean-Luc Godard? Sounds like Jean-Luc Picard. Ooh.
There you go. See? Boom. The movie is referenced in this film that the director had previously directed. Which film is it?
I'm thinking a movie, is it Breathless?
It is Breathless, and
Okay.
the best friend of the boyfriend, is the lead actor that's in the movie. And fun fact, I saw the movie as well. I saw it before I saw this movie. That's what made me watch this movie.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, you needed to know that key information, and so did our audience, that I've seen Breathless.
Well, you've seen most things. This is why when Daniel has these questions and he asks about like, "Oh, what era does this movie come out in?" Okay, because it could be the 1920s, okay? Knowing you, it could definitely be anywhere from like the 20s to now. So I'm like, "Oh, geez, I don't know, Daniel. You've seen every movie in the world."
I have seen every movie in the world.
Yep.
Yes. This is a favorite film of which American actor?
I didn't look this up. Is it Morgan Freeman?
Yes. No, it's not.
Oh.
It is Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's just like, yeah, I can see that for
Yep,
sure.
absolutely. That's why I was like, I can see that. A little 500 Days of Summer-ish, like, I see that little vibe going on. Okay, makes sense. Mhm,
Like it.
okay.
Love it.
Mhm. This female main character mentions her horoscope sign. What is it?
Virgo.
That's right. Angela is faced with a proposition. What does she decide to do by the end of the movie?
Is she gonna sleep with that friend to try to get a baby from him? And spoiler alert, she does, but then she regrets it and she ends up back with her boyfriend, Emile.
Or does she?
Or does she actually regret it?
No, does she actually sleep with them? Because they have that line where it says, if this is a comedy, then it didn't happen, right? Or if it's a drama, then it is. So it's them kind of speaking to the audience, like, what's your interpretation of the ending? That's the thing. That's what I liked about the film, is because it sets it up to the audience of, well, what do you think happened? And they said, if you think it's like this whimsical comedy, then this stuff never happened. And
Mhm.
they're kind of talking to the audience. So it's like your own
Mhm.
interpretation of what occurred. So it's not necessarily definitive whether they did or they didn't. I'll go more into details about that later, but I just want to know what your interpretation was. So you think, yes, they did.
Because I have a tragic mindset, so that's probably why.
Makes sense. As Angela fights with her boyfriend, which household item is she using to be bratty?
I don't know, but is it a broom?
The lamp. Remember, they keep taking the
A
lamp with
lamp?
the light?
Oh, because they fight so much in this movie. There's like the whole middle part of the
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
There's like the bookends and the whole middle part. So she also is like trying to get him to sweep, and like he throws the broom at her.
Yeah.
So she's bratty with the broom. She's bratty with the
Yeah.
lamp, but he's
With all,
also
yeah.
bratty with the lamp. And they're also bratty with the books.
That's
So
that's yeah, that is true, that is true, but I went
yeah.
with the lamp just because it was like, well, you don't need that. You go and you're taking the light source away, and you're going back and forth to have this little squirm, but you're right. But so that one had multiple items. You could have chose
Mm.
any one of those, you would have been right. Now, this movie plays which kind of visual element for our audience? You said animation and black and
Uh-huh.
white. What is it?
Uh-huh. I I think to me what stood out is color and lighting is what
Color
stood
and
out.
lighting, but the visual element was also surrealism. So they played around with surrealism for this. So
Oh.
the reason why I say this is because remember when she's walking, when she's behind stage and you see how quickly she changes. Remember how she walks behind that like door and she immediately changes into different
Mm,
clothing like it was a
okay.
trick. So the
Okay.
movie plays with surrealism where they talk to the audience about certain things. I know you're trying to identify why is it visual elements, but it's
Yeah.
surrealism. It's physically
Right.
impossible for her to have changed walking through a door. So that
Right.
tells you they're playing with surrealism. This isn't a typical traditional movie in the sense where everything they tell you have to take for face value. There's a lot of playfulness between the characters and the director to the audience, where
Mhm.
even you have the one shot where the best friend looks at the camera and talks to us, the audience.
Mhm.
So that kinda invites you that this is a play.
That's in my notes. That's in my notes.
So let's get into your thoughts, and then we'll kinda discuss a little more. So what did you think overall?
I guess the surrealism in the beginning really threw me off because it's like there's music that starts, stops, sound effects, cutting in, cutting out. And then I
Mhm,
just got kind of used to that aspect being like its own type of character, and there's times when the music in particular would stop and it forces you to pay closer attention to what's happening, so they'll over exaggerate other sound effects like a zipper of a dress or high heels on the pavement,
mhm.
or like the dialogue. So there's like, well, it kind of takes your mind and like puts it in different, what is that, is that surrealism? I don't know, I didn't study this in school. It's like plays like these mind games with you and like what you're supposed to focus on, what you're supposed to think.
Yeah. That wouldn't be surrealism. Surrealism is basically
Okay.
breaking away from, realistic constraints.
Reality.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So, like, for instance, again, I use the example because that's the most obvious, is she walks
Mhm,
through a door dressed as one and immediately dresses another. Remember, another character like, "Oh," almost like it's a trick that she learned how to do, but
mhm.
that's physically impossible. You can't do that. So that's an example of surrealism.
Okay. I was really focused on, like, really, I don't know, colors were really like, a
Colors were
thing
huge in
for
this.
me.
Colors were huge, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's like, at one point, Alfred has a red and blue thing on his arm, and then it seems like every time she's with one person, she's wearing red, but then she's with another
Mhm,
person and she's wearing blue, and then if she's wearing red,
mhm.
the other character's wearing blue. There's so like, the
Yep.
primary colors in this movie were still, like, red, blue, yellow, and they all had,
Mhm,
like, these important, they meant, it meant something. So this movie asked me if I like it.
mhm.
I really felt this movie for, like, hours after I watched it. The thing about me being a woman and a chronic overthinker is that I read into everything. I found with this movie that it makes light and pokes fun at actual
Yes.
deep issues that
That's
men and women face in relationships and within themselves and their interactions. I want things that you can't give me, or I have needs that you can't fulfill. Is there someone else better suited for me? Like, this is all, like, this is what the whole movie's about, but it makes it light and fun.
because this movie is very much like that. Like, it deals with very serious issues, but it
Mhm,
does it in such a playful way, and that the characters themselves are so playful, so that's why I was telling you, don't overthink it. So even when you're sitting there watching them fight, like, "Oh my god, they fight all the time, they're so toxic." It's like, yeah, but it's like, but there's a playfulness when they're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, they don't really cross that line of disrespect. There's just, like, a playfulness that does it. That's why even her saying, "I want a baby." He's like, "Fine, well, you can have it with my best friend." Like, that's such a bratty response. Like, "Well, you want this? Go get it from this person." "Fine, I'm gonna go do it." Like, that's what a little kid would do. And even when
mhm.
she's cooking, the food and she ends up burning it and all that stuff, like, that's why I saw that as such, like, a playfulness with the movie. That's why I was telling you, don't take it so seriously. Like, it's not a drama. It's something else.
Oh, yeah, and it definitely was something else. It definitely was comedic, and I like that it was, like, this light, but then me taking everything seriously, I was like, "Oh, I see what they're doing here." It's like sometimes actions and words are just actions and words, and they're not meant to be taken so seriously. Yeah.
Yes.
I love the dialogue in it because it's just every truth and, like, things you wanna say in a relationship, they say it in this movie. They just say it, and that's such a French way to be, actually, thinking about, like, my family, but I loved one of my favorite scenes was when they're in bed and she's not talking to him. He's like, "Oh, you're not talking to me?" And she's like, "No." It's like they're not talking. And then she's like, "Oh, my bottom is cold." It's like that's such a girl move, man. It's like you're gonna try to punish him by not talking, but you still want him to pursue you no matter what. Even if you're mad at him, you he better pursue you and do things for you. That's how we think.
Exactly. Yes, it is. It's like, I'm gonna be mad, I'm gonna say these things to hurt you, but at the end of the day, I don't really mean this. I'm just saying
No.
these things to elicit some kind of reaction out of you, but at the end of the day, my tushy's still cold and I still need to go to sleep.
There are 3 quotes in this movie that really stuck out to me a lot. And the first one was in, like, just the opening of the movie when she's looking at that picture and she sees, like it's like a draw like, almost like a kid's drawing of, like, a fishbowl, and there's, like, a big fish and a little fish, and she says, "I wish I could be both little yellow animals at the same time." And I in my head, I was like, "Dude." Like that yup. I that is, like, one quote I don't think I've ever related to more in a movie. I was like, "Yeah," because like, you wanna be the mother and the child at the same time. It's like, I don't wanna lose, like, my childish whimsy, but then I wanna be a mother, and you have both those instincts in you. I mean, I do. I mean, there's some women who are just, like, they're, like, meant to be mothers, and they go full force into motherhood, and there's some women who never wanna have children, and they're just like, "Nah, it's just gonna be me, I'm gonna do what I want." But there's some women out there who wanna do both, and it's like, how do we do both? And I'm one of those.
It is. It's sort of like the being the protector versus the protected. You know what I mean? When you
Mhm.
become a
Yeah.
mother, you're the protector. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I get it.
Mhm. It's also kinda like the same in relationships too. It's like I wanna be independent, but I want to be protected, and I wanna be it's like you wanna be like have this dominant side over you, but then you wanna be like an independent, your own it's just like, yeah, it could work both ways. My next quote was, "Is this a tragedy or a comedy? You never know with women." And you don't, because it could be
Exactly.
everything in a matter of 10 minutes.
It's both. It's both.
Everything in one
You're right.
day.
Yeah. Is it a tragedy or is it a comedy? Yep.
Uh-huh, and a
Yes, it
horror,
is.
and a drama. That's what I'm saying, this movie's all light and fun, but it's like, there's deep things in it, Daniel.
100%, but they take a
Read
playful
into
way to
it.
approach it. That's what I'm saying,
Yes,
yes.
and I think that it actually is more effective when you do it that way, because then your mind's making the decisions for you. This is what the whole movie's about, okay, I see.
Yes,
Instead of it being shoved in your face, like, "This is what we want you to think," it's like, "What do you think about this?"
exactly. That's why I asked what I asked about the ending. I'm like, "Are you sure that's what happened?" Because they even said if they even talk to the audience and saying, "Well, if this is a comedy," they literally
Mhm,
tell you the answer right there, and everything
mhm,
about the movie has presented itself as a comedy, not as a drama. So you can
mhm,
present it how you want. Like, sure, they're talking about real life things, and you could sit there and say, well, this is a real life situation that's happening. And maybe she's sort of masking that by adding like and we see more of in her head of what's happening versus what's actually happening. You could interpret it that way. Or you could also interpret it as in this is just a fun jab at life and these are fun characters and I don't need to overthink this. Because
mhm.
again, we're overthinking and complicating things more worse than what they actually are. At the very end, why do you feel like they did sleep together?
Because my I know it's like a negative way of thinking, but my mind goes to, like, the bad place where my mind's like, "This is probably what they're doing. This is probably what happens because I think the bad, so I can be surprised with the good." So I think, like, not I'm gonna go like, worst case scenario with this, and if it's not
Mhm.
true, then yay, but then in my head, I'm like, "Nah, I'm going to the bad place. They slept together. Of course they did. Human beings suck."
Yeah. See, so I went with that they didn't. I like to think things are a comedy. That's why I give the benefit of the doubt. They never gave us anything about her character to imply that it was just purely sexual based and that that's what she was motivated by, like to at least get the baby that much. It seemed like she would only do things to get a reaction out of him. So even when she says, don't touch me, and then she backs her booty into him, and it's like that's how she has to sleep. She would say things versus her actions showing otherwise, and in the movie, I never saw
Mhm,
her actions showing otherwise that she would have
mhm,
actually done it. So she's saying that she did just to get a reaction out of him. So that's why I thought benefit of the doubt. The director hasn't given me anything, and I think that's a good way of how we view life anyways. Is life a tragedy or is life a comedy? I tend to look at life as a comedy. It seems like you tend to look at life as a tragedy, so
Um, I was gonna say this is showing a lot about like our character and stuff because you were like, "Oh, benefit of the doubt. She's not showing me any signs of this," and I'm thinking there doesn't have to be signs. People can turn on a dime. They're gonna she
Mhm.
like they probably did it because guess what? Shit happens and it happens a lot and life is tragic. I need
Yeah.
more of a Daniel comedy mindset.
Yeah,
I'm saying
exactly.
my mindset isn't a good mindset. We need more of a Daniel comedy mindset. And I can admit it. I don't want to think that everything's tragedy. I don't want to believe that they slept together. You are actually convincing me based on what the director is saying and what he's saying about the characters and showing us that they didn't sleep together. So
Yeah.
I want to believe that now. Even though,
Yeah.
but in the back of my head, I'm like, "Mm-mm, I bet they did."
Yeah, because you could sit there and see about tragic things, right, that occurred, but it's like you can live your life living as if it's already a tragedy, or you
Mm,
can just live life smiling and live in a comedy. And if tragic things happen, again, we can just laugh about it and life moves on and it doesn't have to be that serious. And that's what the movie kind of teaches us. Cause we even talked offline about her and the character, right? Cause you said it seemed like she was better suited for the friend, right?
mm.
So tell us a little bit about that. Why?
Daniel was asking me what I thought about Neil, her Angela's boyfriend. He asked if I liked him, and I said no. He had a very hard exterior and a very it was almost like it was kind of like unlikable. He was very like cold and hard, and she was more like a cutesy bratty girl. And the friend, Alfred, he was more of like a charming, funny, light-hearted type character. And I'm thinking, why is she with this guy when this guy is more like her and this guy seems more charming? So why is she sticking with this cold, hard ass guy? And then Daniel had his theory. Daniel?
Yes. So my theory is that with if she would have been with the friend, there'd be no tension, right? They probably
Mm,
would have just had the baby and that's it. But she's not looking for somebody that's like her. She's looking, it could have been for a father figure. So if he could have represented some kind of father figure to her, maybe she has daddy issues. That could explain why she's a little bratty, why she acts out and throws tantrums because she's calling for attention. She needs attention. So it could have been the attention she didn't necessarily get as a kid. So she sees some kind of comfort and in the level of support that the boyfriend does. So she mentions how handsome and attractive he is, but she also mentions he has a good job, right? So
mm,
again, it's showing stability.
mhm,
So he's showing stability for something that she wants. So that's why she wants something. She doesn't want to necessarily hang or be with another one of her. She wants
mm.
something that represents something that she doesn't have, which would be her father figure, which is why she's so hell bent on having a baby with him. She sees him as already that.
Father figure. Yeah.
Mm.
Or maybe she did have that type of relationship with her father and she's being with someone who is like her father. So it's not like daddy
Yeah.
issues. It's I'm used to being put in my place and being disciplined, and this guy's gonna let me get away with anything. So it's
Yep.
like, no, I need to be put in my place. And you do there, yeah, there's things that people need in relationships. It's like you can be the dreamer and like the but you need someone to bring you back down to earth, or you can be someone who's so logical and so down to earth. They need someone who's gonna be like, no, 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 open up and be free. So yeah,
Make it a
okay.
comedy. Yeah,
Make
because
it a
you know how
comedy, yes.
you know how you say, like, kids will always test the boundaries? They'll keep testing you on every little tiny thing to see what they can get away with. Relationships
Yes.
are 100% like that because you're testing boundaries. Now some people, like her, like Angela, is more bratty, and she's gonna test everything. Then you have some, but everything's always being tested to some extent of, what can I get away with necessarily? Or what does this person like? Am I doing it too much? Am I not doing it enough? Do they like it when I do this? Do they not like it when I do that? Everything is always being tested to some extent. You just want to know, like, how much do I need to clean around the house? How much do I need to take them on dates? How many times do I need to buy them flowers? How many times do I, like there's so many different things that factor into all this stuff. How many compliments do you need to pay the person? Do you need to give them are you not giving it enough? Are you giving them too much? There's there's little tiny things that you have to test and figure out where that person lies and where you guys kind of meet in the middle. And this movie, you see it's still you could tell that they've been together for a little bit, but they haven't been with each other for a long, long time. So they're still testing each other's boundaries to see what they can get away with. And it's always a give and take.
It's so funny the way you're talking about testing and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, man." Girls definitely test guys all the time, and the way you are explaining testing is totally different than what girls do. Because you're like, "Oh, well, how many times should I buy her flowers? And how many times do I need to compliment them? And how many times do I take them out?" And that's not what girls do. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm,
Girls
I
are
know,
bratty, okay, I'm like
I
girls
know.
are more like, "How am I gonna make him jealous? What can I
Yeah,
say to do this? If I say this to him, will he say this back to me? If I, treat him this way, then is he gonna be cold? Or if I'm cold like he is he gonna be warm to me?" That's
yep,
how girls are more devious and girls are so evil and guys
I
like,
know.
"Oh, what do I do? How many times do I buy her flowers?"
Life's a comedy.
But if you look at it from a girl's point of view, like, that's way more of a tragic way of thinking. That's mean. Like, we're mean.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, because like, when you deal with, like, relationships and stuff, you can have fights, and you got people that take it too seriously, people that take it too far, or you can have some that just kinda let stuff go, and it's like, "Man, why are they letting this go?" Because life could be a comedy,
Mhm.
doesn't have to be a tragedy.
And it shows, like, in this movie, it's like they're whole fighting when they're, like, yelling at each other, and then she, like, will say, like, "I love you" under her breath, and he's like, "What?" She's like, "Nothing." It's like, is any of this dialogue actually happening, or is it just things they're thinking and want to say to each other, but, like, aren't?
Yes.
It was just so, like, this is what we are. It was, like, actually an under the microscope view of women and men and them together in relationships. A lot of these fights are stupid. Like, they're just dumb. They don't mean anything. They don't mean anything. Or if they mean something to you at the moment, it's like, why do they mean these things to you?
We were just arguing about the 20s when none of us said the 1920s, but it was just miscommunication, and here we are.
That's one of those stupid things where it's like, you said that's what I mean. It reminded me of the movie. We were just watching it back. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this is kind of like what the movie is like, where it's just like, this
Yeah,
is what you said, and that was what you
exactly.
said. And we're like,
Yeah,
ugh, whatever. Men
yeah,
are stupid, girls are stupid. We didn't
yeah,
say that, but maybe we think
yeah,
that in our head sometimes. But it's
that's
like,
it.
no, it's just we're
Because it was all meaning. Because it's like, you said 20s, like, "Well, yeah, I physically said 20s, but I wasn't saying the 1920s," and that's where the miscommunication went. "Well, you said 20s." Like, "Well, no,
mm.
I didn't. You just didn't let me finish."
So the moral of the story is what you can learn is don't interrupt, don't jump to conclusions. These are things that this movie has taught me, and I mean, I looked into it hard, like, I really was looking into all of it, and I was like, "Damn, I wanna use this in my own life, I'm gonna try, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try, but I am a passionate, bratty French woman, so I'll have to try to
Yeah,
tone down the
yeah.
je ne sais quoi, come on."
Well, the je ne sais quoi, but you should turn up. That's where it's gotta be. It's just je ne sais quoi.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
See, and also you can admit when you're wrong and someone else is right. You can do
That's
that.
the biggest one. That's the biggest thing. Yep. Exactly.
Huge.
So, would you play it back, or are you gonna rage quit it?
I think I definitely would play it back. It had such a light atmosphere, and I love the color palette. That really got to me. It makes you feel a certain way after it's over. Like, I just would like to watch it again and have more of, like, an interpretive aspect going into it and being like, "Okay, what do I think is actually happening, not what are they trying to tell me?" So, yeah, I'd watch it again. I want to watch it again. I loved it.
See, so you loved it then because you said, I think I'll probably play it back." Like, "Oh, that's it? I'm surprised."
Well, but like you say, it's not one of those ones where I mean, it's light and it's fun, but it's like I feel like you gotta pay attention. Like, you pay attention to it because it's like surrealism. It's not like it's just a movie with a story. Like, it's like you can take someone
Yeah.
like like a movie like Friends with Benefits or like,
Yeah.
whatever, some other movies where it's like will they, won't they, and like all that stuff. It's like a lighthearted, you don't need to focus, they're gonna get back together. This is not like that
Yeah.
because it's an artistic version of one of those movies.
Yeah, it forces you to watch the screen because there's a lot of
Yes.
visual artistic elements that are being shown at you, and you could have it playing in the background, but you wanna watch it because you appreciate it, you know what I'm saying? You appreciate this
Mhm.
one more than the other, so yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
Good.
it's not mind it's light and it's fun, but it's not mindless. Like, it's not like a that's why it's like I don't think I wanna play it back, but it's like a certain time and place
Mhm.
to play it back.
You don't wanna overuse it, you know what I'm saying? You don't wanna overwatch in a short amount of time where you kinda burn yourself out, you wanna, take your time, the je ne sais quoi. You have to
And it's like, wow.
you have to take your time when you sit there and watch it so you can really appreciate it.
Yes, because I think that's one of those movies where there's so many elements to appreciate that it needs more of a focus than just having it on in the background. It deserves more focus than just a background movie. It commands and it demands attention. You need focus. You need to focus on this movie more, I find, because it's just underlying things that they're trying to say to you. Like you say, there's all the surrealism and everything like that. And there's like just some visual aspects where it's like you want to pay attention to it. And I feel like you should. You should be more engrossed into it. It's not one of those ones where it's just like, I'm going to play it back all the time. It's like one of those ones where, okay, I want to be in this mood. I want to have these reactions and I want to feel this movie later. So
Mhm.
this is one of those movies that you would put on because I feel like it deserves the focus.
Yeah, it does, and it's just like it touches a lot of your senses while doing those
Yeah.
filmmakings. For those other movies we
Yes.
talked about, you can sort of play them on in the background and just, do go about your day, and it's like it's fine. There's not a lot of
Mhm.
deeper meaning. With this one, there's a lot of visual elements. There's even sound elements that you
Mm.
forces you to have to sit there and watch. Like
Mm.
it's a performance. Like we said, it feels like an like a acting performance. It feels like a play. It very much feels like
Yeah.
a play to me.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
this is a movie that you're more so experiencing than watching. You're not just viewing this movie, it's like an experience. You were saying that you would recommend this movie to girls who are into, like, romance movies, and I said, "Well, it depends on what kind of
Yes.
romance movies because this is not your typical this day and age, it's
Yes.
not like that because 'cause they're taking, like, more realistic approach on actual romance than just this, like, dream world fantasy, happy ending romance. So it's like, would you recommend it to someone who's into romance movies? I don't know.
Probably not 100. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to a lot of them. This is one of those movies I don't recommend to like just everybody. It has to be very specific, like very specific people that I think will appreciate it because A, it's already a foreign film. Not everybody watches foreign films. And then it takes a very serious relationship problems, but then they present it in a very comedy way, which is
Mm,
the whole juxtaposition. And can they get behind it? Do they understand it? And then they do surrealism and plays a little bit with experimental in the filmmaking. So there's just a lot of elements being thrown at you. So it's not for everybody. Friends with Benefits, like all those movies. Nothing against what is that the one with Justin, Justin Timberlake, maybe. Sorry. Apologize to the actors, nothing against them. But I use those movies because it's very surface level. It's like the issues that the couples have is very surface level stuff. It's like, does he like me? Does he not?
mhm.
There always tends to be some kind of miscommunication. There's always a third party love triangle. I kind of like this person too. That's how it's always tied in. With this one, it's dealing with a couple who one of them wants a child and the other one doesn't. That's a real life thing. But then they present it in a very almost surface level comedy level. And that's why we mentioned about the juxtaposition because you're giving us a real issue that American rom coms just never really deal with. But then you're
Mhm.
presenting it in a comedic way, sort of like the way American movies are, but then you do it in a very French filmmaking way of style of filmmaking. So I enjoy the movie. I love it. It's one that I don't go back and rewatch all the time, but I've seen it,
Mhm.
about maybe 3 times in my life. It's good. It's one that I do own, so I like to go back to it every once in a blue moon, but it's different, it's unique, it's a different form of storytelling. I enjoy that. I get tired of the same repetitive stuff that they just force feed us all the time. That's why, with more recent movies, I tend to get a little more harsher because they're just giving us the exact same regurgitated movie, even reusing the same actors. This one, I like the non-scripted narrative. I like it they're giving us things that we can kinda choose and that they're kinda talking to us in a certain way. It feels very play-like. It's very playful. I love the color palette on it. The main character, the girl, even though she's acting bratty or whatever, and I say the term bratty, there's still like a cuteness to it.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I don't think that it's a bad thing at all. I thought she was a very cute character. Kinda reminded me a little bit like a Amelie in a certain way, where it's like
Mhm.
but even though this character was a little more bratty, but it was a little more real. So even though she wants to be a mother, you see the little girl side coming out of her and it kinda throwing like little tiny tantrums that I just thought was funny. And even the boyfriend was acting bratty. He was acting bratty in his own
Mm.
ways too.
Mhm.
And it was just funny to see that because it reminds me of when I was in my early 20s, like, "Oh, I can kinda see that, you can kinda relate, like, you're kind of an adult, but you're not really an adult." And the little
Mhm.
kid side still comes out of you sometimes, and, You see that, and it's like it's a movie that, like I told you, don't take it too seriously. It's one they shouldn't be taken too seriously. Sure, they're talking about real life problems, but they have so many movies of drama that already tackle that stuff. This one didn't really need to tackle that. They kept it light, they kept it whimsical. It's basically like you don't need to overthink life, and you don't have to take drama so seriously sometimes. You can just kinda have fun with it, because at the end of the day, life's supposed to be enjoyable. We have one life. You could sit here and be stressed out all you want, or you can kinda smile and just enjoy life, even when life throws you curveballs sometimes, and sometimes stuff can be bad. Sometimes it's fun, it's just not. You don't have to take it seriously. It's your own interpretation. It could be a comedy. Your life can still be a comedy despite the hiccups that come up.
Psychology with Daniel, Psychology 101,
Yes, it
Relationship
is.
Studies with Daniel 101.
Woman is a woman.
Thank you for watching another episode of Replays It All. This was Late to the Game with Dan Noodles.
Was that
Gotta get that stuck.
right? Yeah.
That was it. That was
Dan
your name.
Noodle.
You can watch more of our content on our YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start. You can follow us on IG and Twitter at Not a Strong Start. You can follow me on Instagram at Marie Plays It All.
And you can follow Dan Noodles at King_Sangre.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and comment and all those things, like hit that bell or whatever they all say. Never forget that sometimes men and women are different. Never forget that little fights don't mean anything. Never forget, this is not what I say. Don't stop. I say don't. What do I say? Don't
She
stop
forgot her
playing.
own quote. Yeah.
Never
Never
stop
stop. Don't
playing.
stop stopping.
Yeah.
Never stop laughing at life.
Never stop laughing at life. That's a good one. Even when you think it's a tragedy and a drama, just be like in your head, and then maybe it'll be a comment.
Just put on some bright colors, and there we go. And talk to the camera.
Anytime things get rough, just be like, pull a Jim.
Yeah, that's it. Just look and do the shrug. Guapa!